morning, everyone, and thank you for being here early on this Saturday. We're so happy to have you all here, and we have a very special presentation today. My good friends, Barb Bailey, Aaron Horrell, are here with the Missouri Bicentennial mural. Hopefully you've had a chance at some point in the last year or two to paint on the mural, because if so, you are one of 16,116 painters in the state who will participate in this wonderful, wonderful mural that has traveled all over. And so without further ado, I would like to bring them on board to talk about the process and tell you more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. First of all, I want to thank the Missouri Museum of History or whatever for having us here today, and Michael Sweeney especially. He's not here, I don't see him, but I want to thank him because without him coordinating this event, it wouldn't have happened.
3 years ago, we were sitting in the art gallery. Aaron and I are artists, and we worked together at his gallery in Cape, and he had read an article in the newspaper about Michael Sweeney was looking for large projects that people around the state were doing. And at the time, we were doing a Paint for a Cause for the police department in Cape Girardeau. Paint for a Cause was Aaron's idea. He started it 7 years ago. And what it is we have a painting. It's grayscale. People can come and paint. They can donate $1, and they paint just a little bit. And then as many people as possible paint. And when it's finished, this painting and the money go to whatever the cause is. The first one we did was for the Women's Safe House in Cape Girardeau. And like I said, we were working on one for the police department in Cape. And Aaron saw this article, and he turned to me and he said, do you think we could do something like this for Missouri on a bigger scale? And I looked back and said, yeah, of course. I know we can do it. It's whether the money's there or not. So right away, he said, well, let's just call Michael. So he called him and told him what he had in mind. And Michael happened to be coming to Cape the next week, so he made an appointment to come in and visit with us. At that time, we had no idea what we were going to put on the mural, and Michael was okay with that. So then after we decided what we were going to do.
Yeah, let me take over a little bit because we didn't know what was going to go on this mural. And we discussed about what maybe could go on, the Emerson Bridge in Cape Girardeau and the St. Louis Arch and maybe a fountain or two in Kansas City but Barb looked at me kind of like, that's not going to include most of the state. That's going to be good for the big cities. It's like they win again, you know. Everybody else needs to have a shot at something that they like. And Barb said, why don't we use the state symbols? And I went, duh, that's got to be it. That's right. So we checked to see if the state symbols were on the wall anywhere in and around Jeff City, you know, in the Capitol building or so forth. And we found out that there really wasn't. So that made it even more relevant. And so that's how we ended up with the symbols, because Barb suggested it. Things like this kept rolling with this project all along, and I don't know how or why, but it ended up working out in time. But we started 3 years ago. We've been on this about 3 years. And gosh, the first place we went to, I think, was a small winery in southeast Missouri. And we had 150 maybe people paint. And most people didn't know what we were doing, and it was hard for us to describe over and over and over and over to each individual person. So it made it hard. You might want to go through some slides.
So we include the flag is the background of the mural, and our first state symbol was the state seal. So that's where we started with that. We had a video team, 4 students. There's just 2 here in the picture that they did a kind of a commercial for us, and that's on our Facebook page. And then Aaron and I and Michael Sweeney.
This is a small mock.
This is a small color mock-up. We took this with us before we got the banner over there. This is what we took around to show everybody. This shows you one of the panels before we started painting. And when we started out, we had a 2-inch square grid. This, you can see the 2-inch square grid also. This is the first painters, my husband, Tony. And this is still the square grid.
That's where we, this one shows where we were at the winery. You can see the grapes. We used a photograph of the Cynthiana Norton grape, and this guy in Commerce, Missouri, has those in his vineyard, and so we used one of his photographs for that, and that's where we started. And that shows what was painted after the first day. We're pretty close to the first day.
Then we realized that the square was taking too long for people to paint, especially when we were at events and there was a line of people. So Aaron and I spent 2 weeks putting diagonal lines on all the panels so that it would, and plus it would give more people a chance to paint too.
And we decided at some point along the way to do buttons, commemorative buttons or pins, whatever people call them. And we still have several of those. They're $2 a piece. They're cheap. They're good buttons.
Also, we learned that some people were having trouble seeing where we want them to paint, and then Aaron and I were also having trouble to explain to him where to go. So Aaron spent a long time outlining some of the major items on the mural.
And this shows the grapes that the blue lines are what I drew in. And that successfully, I had to go over lots of the other stuff too, to draw it in for people so it would be easy. This shows Governor Mike Key, or Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. He showed up in Oran, Missouri, unbeknownst by us. We were surprised to suddenly see him there. He wanted to know what we were doing. We told him about it, and he became one of the best advocates for this. He got us into the Capitol building twice, actually, and I mean, he's a great advocate for it. And this shows the fiddle panel. We call them each the fiddle panel, the dinosaur panel, or whatever panel. And this shows it about 3/4 done, maybe, but it kind of gives you an idea of how many people we still need, you know, on that panel. So it's a lot of people. Over 1,700, I think, on each panel were needed.
This was also at Orion, and some of the little children we had to help. They wanted to paint too, and some of them cried when they wanted to keep painting. They didn't want to stop. So, and some of the little kids didn't need help, but this was a sweet little girl, and she did a good job.
This man is an Indian chief. He's from southeast Missouri, but he's a man that I've known for a long time, and he represents his people on this big panel, which is really I'm really happy that he was able to come and paint on it. I don't know what else to say. You know, the Native American Indians are pretty important in the history of the state of Missouri, and that's who he represents for. I'm not sure. I think this young lady was from Sri Lanka. I'm not sure, but anyway, she was a student, exchange student, or whatever you call it, at South SEMO University in Cape. There you go.
This was, we went to the winery, was the first event we took a panel to. This was our second event, was Mayfest in Perryville. It rained all day. And we had a superhero show up. This was Captain America. We also had Superman and Spider-Man. And they're actually law enforcement people in the area, and they have some kind of a group. They get together and dress up like this. They're heroes for kids. I don't remember exactly what they do, but they support kids stuff around the Perryville area.
Okay, this lady is Brenda Newbern, and she's with Visit Cape, the Cape Girardeau Tourism Visitors Bureau. And she was very enthusiastic about this project from the first time she heard about it. And Visit Cape was our major sponsor. They gave us a little bit more money than other people did to allow us to actually go and pay for hotel stays and travel expenses, yeah, and things like that. I mean, just there's a lot of expenses, you know, for paint and for printing the panels, and it was actually close to $6,000 just to print the grayscale panels, 15 of them. And they're aluminum composite material. It's called dye bond. It's very durable and lightweight. And so that's why we used it. And it was also compatible with the acrylic paint that we used. And you can see on this also that I was wearing a hat. I don't know if we need to put on our vests and our hat that will show what we evolved kind of into doing at each place.
Now it feels like we're, ready to go to work.
Yeah, we're in character.
I'll let Erin talk about this little girl. She's a special little girl.
This little girl's name is Katie, and she's been coming to Paint for a Cause. Can you go back? She's been coming to Paint for a Causes that we've been doing at the state fair in Cape Girardeau over the last 3 years, I think 2 or 3 years. This little girl is progressing in her ability to move. She has some, I don't know her whole story, but she has muscular problems where her hands are, she can't control them very well. But you can see in her eyes she knows what she's doing. And I think she's 11 in this picture, might be 12. But I've come to think this is such an awesome little girl. After painting, she gives me a sign. I didn't know what it was at first, but it was like this. She would put her hand up and kind of go like that to her chest. I asked her mother what that meant, and she said, "She's telling you thank you." I could almost cried. I love this girl, and I love the fact that she's proving that everybody can paint. Everybody could participate in this. Even though some people elected to walk on and not paint, can't do it, I'll mess it up, I'll go like that, No, you won't. Nobody did. Nobody ever did who took the paintbrush. So I used to tell them, if you can put a metal object that has 4 prongs in your mouth with food on it, and you can not bite the metal prongs, you can easily paint a triangle on this. But didn't convince a whole lot of people. Those who wanted to walk away walked away anyway. And that's all right.
Also, she didn't quite finish painting her triangle, and Erin, her mom and grandma were there to paint, and they painted on the triangles next to hers. And was it her mom? One of them said they would finish her triangle, and Erin said, no, leave her triangle. Her triangle is the only one that's not completely painted. And this shows that military people participated. I think they were National Guard guys that were at the fair. This was from our visit in St. Genevieve for Jour de Fête. This was one of the reenactors. This was our youngest painter. She's a little 12-day-old baby girl. Her mom and dad said they would bring her twin sister to paint later. I don't know where she was at this time because she wasn't with them, but they never came back with her. But this is our youngest painter. Do we want to talk about we had one lady, it was kind of strange when we were at St. Genevieve. She was very worried about putting her name in the book. We keep a journal. I think we have that later on. But we have a journal with everybody's name, your age, your job title, and where you live, just for information. It's just interesting to see where everybody's from, their jobs and everything. Well, this lady was not going to do that. She didn't want to, wasn't going to paint if she had to do that. And eventually she got tired and she left.
There's a lot more negative things about this, you know, that some people showed us, but I don't like dwelling on the negative. The COVID virus was negative for us and hurt us terribly in 2020 because we had tons of places cancel on us that we had scheduled month after month after month, being at places like Hannibal and Warrensburg, Washington, just various places during that summer, and they all canceled on us, and then we didn't have time to get back to them, so it's very, very sad.
This lady is the Jefferson City Mayor, Carrie Turgeon?
Close enough. You.
This is Dan Maxey. He was a great guy. He is from Trenton, Missouri. That was probably the farthest place away that we went. He made it so easy for us. He went and visited community groups, the city council. When we got there, all we had to do was set up, and people came to us knowing what they were doing. They were coming there to paint, so that saved us a lot of time of talking what we're doing, why we're there, where this is going to go. They all already knew. So we had 751 people came at Trenton to paint. We were there for 3 days.
This young man surprised me one day. I was in the gallery. I think I was there. You were there? Okay, we were both there. Anyway, this young man walked into the art gallery in Cape Girardeau. We have a small art gallery. And he spoke good, clear English, which was when he told me where he was from. I was surprised. He was from, or is from, the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific, close to Australia, I think, you know, in that area. I believe. Anyway, he let me know that there were over 200 islands in the Solomon Islands, but he said most of them are too small and uninhabited by people. But he said his grandfather, long time ago, before World War II, I think it was a headhunter. And he said they had to actually do that. They had to actually protect their people by keeping other people from other islands from suddenly showing up and killing everybody. So they tried to protect themselves in that way. So, but anyway, he has a pet turtle at his home, and he was so happy when he got to paint on the turtle. He thought that was just really cool. This is the guy, if you look close, you can see he's painting on the very top of the arch. This is a good friend of ours named Hank Lopez. He's from Perryville. And he took the photograph that we actually used for the arch. I'll try to make this as short as I can, talking about this, or should we go later? Okay. Anyway, we used his picture, his photo.
And this is his wife Rhonda's painting too. They actually got to paint 2 triangles.
Okay, me again. Okay, we went to Farmington Intermediate School, middle school. 5th and 6th graders painted on this, and this is at the end of the day. Some of the teachers, and a lady standing next to me in the green, her name is Janice Chapman. she's the art teacher there for the school, and I asked her if she would do some research and see if the St. Louis Arch was a state symbol, which Barb and I had already done this research and knew it wasn't. And I asked her if she would do that and then try to find out if it wasn't, try to find out a way to maybe she and her students could have it recognized as the newest Missouri state symbol. Long story short, they did it. It went to the floor of the House, I think, first at the state capitol. And there was no opposition whatsoever. And then it was voted on in Senate Bill 72, I think it was just recently. It will become the newest state symbol on August 28th, so just a short time from now. And I think that's awesome because I put it on, or had it put on this panel, and then they painted it, it ends up becoming a state symbol. I think that's just pretty cool. That's some history about this panel that's trivia, I guess, but it's very good.
It's known as it's a state monument. This was a thrill for Aaron. He got to tell the governor no. We always tell everybody they get to paint one triangle, and sometimes, like when we went to the schools, the kids would, well, I want to paint another one, and Aaron always told them, no, the governor only gets to paint one, so you only get to paint one, and they're like, okay. So when we went to Jefferson City, and Aaron's directing the governor where to paint, and he leaned over and asked Aaron, could he paint another one, and he says, no. This is the first time I get to tell the governor no.
And this is Governor Mike Parson.
Okay, yeah, we visited Salem in Dent County, Missouri. There's 5 schools in the county. It's a rural county. The lady, you can barely see her in the back corner there in the red and black plaid shirt. That's Libby Sanders. She was our contact person for that area. She made all the arrangements in the schedule for which we went to 2 schools on a Tuesday morning. Tuesday night we had an art show. We set up so people could paint there, and then we went to the other schools the next day. Jason Smith is our congressman from Southeast Missouri. When he came to the gallery, which we have pictures a little bit later, he's from Rolla or from Salem. And I said, oh, well, you probably know Libby Sanders. And he says, well, yeah, I hate to tell you, but she died of COVID in December of this last year. And Aaron and I had talked about this before. Before COVID, I wonder how many people that get to paint will still be here to see it on the wall when it's finished. So we don't know. There's probably other people, but she's the only one that we know of at this time. She was a really nice lady. She was well loved in her community. She was an art teacher. She was the arts council person there too.
Oh boy, I love these times whenever we would be at a school and, as one class, usually we had 25 children come into a room where we were set up 25 at a time, and they would paint. It could be 20 or 15 or whatever kids, children. But sometimes they would finish painting and they'd grab my leg, give me a big hug, and finally we got a photograph. At one point, one of the schools we were at, there was like 6 little first grade kids who came up together and gave me a group hug, and I think that was terrific. That's just an awesome thing for me to experience. It's cool. Oh, yeah, this is whenever the COVID kind of happened, and this is at our gallery. You can see little bits of paintings on the wall behind us. This lady is a good friend of mine and Barb's, but this just represents what how COVID changed us, and even here in the audience today, people are sitting with masks on, and that's unfortunate, but it's the way it is.
So while COVID was here, we had other things to do at the gallery. Aaron and I worked together, and he he's from Chaffee, and he'd always wanted to do, he's also a veteran, wanted to do a mural for them. So we started this last December 1st or 2nd and finished it, I guess, before Christmas or a little after Christmas. I don't remember how long this is, but it's in Chaffee VFW Hall, and it's 2 panels put together.
It's actually 19 feet long. You can't really tell there, but it's 19 feet long and 5 feet tall. Yeah, I think that's right. It's 5 feet tall. It would not fit in my truck.
And then we also write and illustrate children's books. So these are the books we put out during that time.
We were pretty sad about the COVID and the Missouri Bicentennial Mural project at this time, but we still had things to do, and we still were working. Even if the gallery was closed, we would still come in, the 2 of us, and be able to work.
This was our first event after things started kind of open up after COVID. This was in October of 2020. We were at the Stars and Stripes Museum in Bloomfield, and we got to meet Colonel Ulysses S. Grant and Mrs. Grant. They were reenactors that were there for the day. And then we also got to meet actor Dale Dye. He's a Marine movie consultant.
He actually, I thought this was really poetic. He actually lives in Los Angeles, California now, but I asked him what movies you might have acted in, and he said, well, he had a minor role in Mission Impossible 2, I think it was. And I thought, here he's on another Mission Impossible with this, because we didn't know for sure if we were going to be able to accomplish this at that time. We knew we would get really close, but Mission Impossible again.
He also grew up, oops, we go too far here. He also grew up in the Sikeston-Benton area of Missouri, so he's from Missouri. We were hoping all along that we could find some famous Missourians either in Missouri or who had left Missouri, and some actors and stuff, if they knew about this, if they were in Missouri to come paint, and we could never make any kind of contact with anybody. But he just happened to be there for the day, and so that worked out. And this is my dad. He's painting on the mural. My mom also painted, but I didn't include her picture. Then we decided to have some caps made to sell. So we have a couple of those with us today. This was just interesting. The girl had blue fingernails and she was painting on the blue panel, or blue triangle. And you can see the brush. It's a very small brush. We started out with 2 brushes, and then eventually we've got 4 that we used for the whole painting process. Yeah, you can see it's wearing out. The paint's peeling off the brush. The bristles we have to trim the bristles because they start sticking out. Michael Sweeney's not here, but this was his wife. He was in Cape and brought her by so she could paint. Michael Sweeney's the state bicentennial coordinator. My sister was in town visiting, so she stopped by to paint.
Oh, the bee is actually Barb's photograph that we used. She took a great picture of a honeybee on a flower, and we used it because it was good enough. This lady here represents the first 200 years of the state of Missouri. She's 102 years old, and she's the oldest person to be a painter on this project. We tried several places we would go. We would try to ask if somebody knew somebody who was over 100 years old to paint. And the answer was sure, but she's not able to get here, or he's not able to get here. He's in a nursing home, he's in whatever, and can get to the event. Finally, we accomplished that, though. And I think it's amazing that she ends up painting. I think she painted on the belt where it says, "United we stand, divided we fall." She painted yellow. You can see yellow in my hand there. I'm holding the paint tube, so I know that's where she painted. And that's, I don't know, just another amazing thing. You know, we're so happy that she was able to represent the first 200 years of the founding of the state. This little girl happens to be my granddaughter, but Barb thought that photograph was so cool because she's so intent. How old was she? 18 months? Something like that. So it just shows you that she's keyed on her triangle too, and she was pushing my hand, trying to move it here and there, and she really wanted to paint. So pretty awesome. She's painting on the bullfrog panel.
I liked this picture because this little girl and her dad were just so intent on what they were doing too. I just thought that was a cute picture. They're painting on the mule. This was a lot of people took pictures while they were for somebody else that was painting, and we just thought this was a neat picture to take a picture of somebody taking a picture.
At Puxico, we surpassed the Guinness Book of World Records record of 13,284, I think it is. That's what it says in their book, the most people to paint a painting. And at Puxico, Missouri, we surpassed that. The sixth graders were the ones that actually were that number that we were reaching for finally was surpassed. And their teacher told them before we had a chance to get our cell phones out and make a video of it. It takes just a few seconds, you know, to get ready. And she told them prematurely when the last two were painting. And they jumped and hollered and ran. We're in the gymnasium. You can see the floor and the bleachers. And those kids run around in circles, yelling and waving their hands. And it was like, oh man, we missed it. We missed it. We tried to get them back towards the end of the school day because the schedule was for kids to come in a wave, you know, from wave after wave. At the end of the school day, they were unable to come because some of them were already on the buses and stuff. So, but at least we have this picture, and it's an awesome memory for those children at Puxico. They did something terrific together. It's just amazing.
This was when we were in Houston, Missouri, and Aaron liked it because the sign at the top says a great mixture, and we've got paints on the table and the kids are painting. This is just another photo op. I think this was at the Jackson Middle School.
Probably 80%, I would say, of people who painted had somebody with them, or else they pulled out their camera, and either Barb or I would take pictures. You know, Barb's taking the picture there. And I'd say 8 out of 10 at least took photos. So there's a lot of pictures that went home with people, a lot of memories of this. So that just shows you, too, how tremendous this project actually turned out to be.
And this is at the Houston Elementary School. I was just impressed with this little girl, that how carefully she was painting and didn't need any help.
She was probably 4.
Yeah, I think she was a little preschool. And this was when we were in Sykeston. This little girl made a sign for us for the bicentennial birthday, so we took a picture.
Her name is Bella. You can see at the bottom from Sykeston. She says, 200th Happy Birthday, Missouri. This really says a lot. She gave me this little lined note paper from her notebook, I suppose, and gave that to me as we were finishing that day.
She also told us she wanted to be an art teacher when she grew up.
This was interesting. This was this? Jackson. Okay, Jackson, Missouri. We got, after doing this for, several months, we would try to interact with the kids as best as we possibly could. So at this point, we were telling them, you represent, because we figured out how many people approximately were in the state of Missouri, and each child would represent, because we could see how many we were getting, and so each one was going to be representing at least 375 other people in the state of Missouri. But beyond that, they're representing people who lived in the state of Missouri since its founding, and that runs into the millions. And so each one that came up, I'd ask them, I guess Barb was doing it too, but I would ask them, who are you representing? Who are you painting for? And most kids would be my grandma, my mom, and my uncle or somebody. And I asked this little boy, and he said, he just turned and looked at me like that, and he said, I'm painting for God. And I said, whoa, I have to get a photograph of you. And he just went right back to painting. And I said, there was nothing to it. Yeah, he's painting for God. And I thought, really? He's right, because I don't think God painted on it. I think God did have a lot to do with us finishing this project, but that's a little moment in time. And it's kind of astounding to me. Just another one of those little aspects of this.
Yeah, Aaron and I talk every once in a while. God definitely had a hand in this because he put the idea in his head, and we've had safe travels. We haven't had any accidents, and nothing's happened to any of the panels. The panels are all in good shape. Haven't dropped them or anything. Aaron's really excited about this picture because he's one of the few people that we know of who got to pull their truck up right next to the governor's mansion. And this is when we went and visited them in May. So Aaron helped the governor paint. I got to help the governor's wife paint. And she got to paint 2 triangles, so we told her to be sure and let the governor know that she got to paint 2.
This panel, or kind of the people holding it, I guess, this is at Lincoln University. I better get that right because it says it right there for me. Lincoln University in Jeff City. And this university was started, a little bit of history about it back a long time ago, for black students only, because they were having a hard time being accepted into universities. So we ended up there, very glad to be there. At this time, they have students of any race, it doesn't matter. But these 2 men were like campus police officers, protection. And they both got to paint on it, and they helped us carry this panel back to the truck, because while we were there, the wind started blowing like you wouldn't believe. I don't know. It was really blowing hard. So I asked them if they would please help, and they were very willing to help, and they succeeded in getting it back to my truck and in the truck, which was great. So again, it's like a godsend. It's like God's helping us get this done by putting these 2 strong men in our path.
And this is the president of the Lincoln University while she was painting. We helped quite a few painters paint. This was at one of the nursing homes we visited. We've had some people would say, oh, I'm too nervous. Even little kids, when they thought about what a serious project this was, they were shaking, they had trouble holding the paintbrush still, and we'd tell them, that's okay, don't worry about it. They were afraid they were gonna mess it up. No, nobody's gonna mess anything up, and nobody did. But we did help people if they asked us to help hold their hands steady. We had a legally blind man paint. I don't remember if I mentioned that already or not. And yeah, like I said, we've helped a lot of people.
This is a different nursing home that we visited. And this lady, I don't think she's waiting to paint. I think she already painted, and she's staring at what she did. And she's elderly. She's in, the last years of her life. And we talked to her, and she never ever thought she would ever be able to do something like this. It's like a high point in her life, she said. And it's pretty amazing how it touches some people. All they are is part of something big. This project is huge. This project is small. It's, you know, I don't know. It's just awesome to watch and see the reactions of people and who got to do this. This is my little grandson, and he loves bullfrogs. He's crazy about bullfrogs and all kinds of frogs, and he got to paint on the frog's eye, and he thought that was terrific. I saved it for him so he could paint on it. And then he came back after everybody else had painted on it and the frog was painted. He came back to visit and sat down in front of it as if he was the bullfrog, and he just looks awesome, all I can say.
Aaron likes bullfrogs too. And this is our Congressman Jason Smith when he visited the gallery and painted. These are the 14 journals that we kept all the information in. I've typed up all the names and put them on a flash drive that's going to Truman Building with the panel. They've got a kiosk there, and they might be able to somehow put that in the kiosk, so when you visit there, you can type in and see the name of a relative or just look and see who all painted.
I'm going to go through a list, and kind of, this might help you understand how many lives we might have touched here. These numbers I'm going to give you are towns. These are towns, not people, not individual people, but people who showed up from these towns, and how many towns. In the state of Missouri, we have 358 cities and towns represented. We've asked a few people how many they thought we would get, and the number usually is 50. But we ended up with 358. Alabama, we had 1 town. Arizona, 1. Arkansas, 19. California, 7. Colorado, 1. Florida, 1. Georgia, 7. Illinois, 66. Indiana, 2. Iowa, 3. Kansas, 15. Kentucky, 7. Louisiana, 1. Maryland, 2. Michigan, 1. Minnesota, 4. Mississippi, 2. Nebraska, 3. And these are towns, not people. North Carolina, 1. Ohio, 2. Oklahoma, 8. Oregon, 1. Rhode Island, 1. South Carolina, 1. Tennessee, 10. Texas, 12. Virginia, 2. And there might have been 15 people from Virginia. Washington, 1. Washington, D.C., 1. 1 place. Wisconsin, 3. And then we'll go a little bit farther to countries. Africa, Belgium, Canada, China, Ecuador, Germany, Italy, Japan, Philippines, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Solomon Islands, South Korea, Sri Lanka, Thailand, England, and Zimbabwe. That's who we represent, who painted on this, are people from those places.
Here we are finishing up. And we put the state of Missouri, the outline, left it blank on purpose so we could put the project inception date, the first painter, last painter, how many people painted, our sponsor, our names, and then that the Missouri was admitted as the 24th state of the Union in August 10th, 1821. Aaron was the last painter.
Yeah, Barb was wondering, what are you going to do? If you're going to be the last painter, what are you going to paint? And she got to where it says the Union at the 24th state. She thought I would at least do the word state, but I didn't. And then I surprised her. I outlined the state of Missouri with light blue. And there it is. And the project wasn't over when you finished painting, so we still had to get these panels laminated, so we took them to a local sign company that actually made the panels to start with. they promised they would laminate them when we were done, so they're taking them in to the business to be laminated at this time. And this is just pulling out one of the panels from the back of my truck. Kind of shows what kind of a framework we had. We carried, usually where we went, we just carried one, sometimes two of the panels. So we had this, I don't know what to call it, a frame, support frame for the panels, put it in the back of my truck, and we would travel. We'd cover it up with a tarp so that, you know, no rain would get on it or anything.
This was from the Cape Girardeau's 4th of July celebration. We set up the panels in the arena building at the arena park. This is where they were seen all together for the first time.
And we still weren't done, so we are making replicas of this big panel, small replicas, and they will probably be wanted, we hope, by schools and cities that we visited. And so we needed them photographed, so we took them to LaRose photography studios, an old building, and the man who is running the place now said that his father started the business a long, long time ago, probably 50 years ago or longer. And anyway, that's Barb and me with one of the panels outside his studio. So they all had to be photographed, and of course Barb couldn't resist the opportunity to be photographed with the bullfrog. And let's see, this is us. Oh, we're a speaking engagement. We've started being asked to come to speaking engagements and talk about this project. And so we were at the Jackson Rotary Club, I think it was, asked us to come, and we were available, so we went and spoke to them. Not nearly as long as this, but they at least got an overview.
And that's just additional information. So if anybody has any questions, we're open for questions. It's on display right now at the Capitol building on the first floor, or around the museum area, around the rotunda. It'll be there, as far as we know, through Tuesday. I don't know how soon it'll go up in the Truman building, but we met with the people that are going to be installing it. We met with them yesterday, so I don't know how soon they'll get it up on the wall.
The people who are installing it is called Russell Marty. I don't know if they go to just Russell Marty. They actually do a lot of the art renovations and such things. They work with artwork and putting up murals and things like that. They're from California, Missouri, and supposedly very good at it, so we're hoping they can get it up. It'll be in the rotunda, like Barb said, until after the event on August 10th, but after that, I think they're planning on getting it up in the Truman building on the walls sometime in September, hopefully before September 18th. Another question? The Truman building is like 7-minute walk from the Capitol building. So if you park close to, if you park close to the Capitol building, you'll be able to walk to both places. So it's real easy. So, another question? Okay. I don't know if you have anything more, Barb.
Thank you.
Yeah.